December 2025 release, year end. But here I am reviewing this figure in July 2025, almost 3.5 months earlier. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven from X Kurogane Studio. Today with a scale figure review, and guess what? It is another low budget original character scale figure coming from a Chinese brand. This time around by Reverse Studio, which this company has been around for some time. It is not a very new company, but this would be my first time reviewing something made by them because so far they haven't made anything that I am interested in buying. This would be the first one because I love JKs. Alright, so introductions. This is a collaboration between Reverse Studio and Hobby Sakura, a 1/6 scale bunny girl. Yeah, she doesn't have a name, just bunny girl. And at 1/6 scale, her height, at least as written on the box over here, is 27 centimeters. But the actual dimensions I got from measuring her with a measuring tape is closer to 28, which is nice. Meanwhile, for the release date of this figure, this is the surprising part. In China, at least officially on paper, release date is November 2025. And internationally, which means if you pre-ordered her from Japanese websites like Ami or HLJ, it is December 2025 release, year end. But here I am reviewing this figure in July 2025, almost 3.5 months earlier. Does X Kurogane has some kind of secret connections or contacts over in China? Like, honestly, the answer is no. Apex Toys used to send me one sample figure for review, and that was so many years ago. And recently there was this company, what was the name again? SSR Figure, which they went through me to organize a figure giveaway, and they did send me a free figure for review. But no, not Reverse Studio. I don't think they know that I even exist. So how did I even get my hands on this figure? I happened to see her in stock. Yeah, in stock in a local Chinese store over in Taobao. And I was surprised myself. I messaged them in Chinese. Is this actually in stock or is this a pre-order? They said they had a few in stock. So here we are today with this figure on my desk. I'm not sure how. Maybe this is like an early exclusive sample, limited release for the mainland Chinese. I'm just speculating over here, but I'm glad to have one. And I get to see what the figure is like in person, what the quality is like. Because Reverse Studio has a bit of a mixed reputation in terms of quality control, mainly with the paintwork. I've seen people complain about the paint before, but I suppose that these kind of things are case-by-case basis, right? Just because your copy of the same figure has an issue with the paintwork does not mean mine will also have the same problem. That is what quality control is all about. It is random, right? Depending on the batch of the product. So before I move on to the details on the sculpt and paintwork, a quick mention about the box. This is once again altar style plastic box all over. Very attractive, but at the same time does not provide much protection to the figure. But at least with this figure, there is not much to protect. This is not exactly a fragile figure unless the postman treat your figures like a basketball. I think this figure will arrive fine, even with this kind of box over here. So box is pretty small and compact, cheap to ship as well. And as for assembly, as you saw in my figure haul video more than a week ago, it is just plugging the figure into the base and not much else. Which brings us to the contents of the box, where I got this badge over here. Very nice. A small bonus over here. I'm not sure if this badge over here is included in the international release version, but do bear in mind that if you pre-ordered this figure on Ami or HLJ or any Japanese websites, you might not get it. Or maybe the free stuff you are getting in the box is something else rather than this badge. I want to bring in the stability of the figure, where on one hand, I really appreciate this tiny compact base over here. She does not take up much space in the display shelf, but on the other hand, the small surface area means that the figure is extremely unstable. It is very easy to knock over this figure, as you can see over here. Whoops. Yeah, because of the small surface area. And one more thing is that the very lightweight, the very hollow base is not helping at all. If the base was a lot heavier with some weight to it, then this figure would be a lot more stable. One more thing is the foot peg over here, which I find to be kind of interesting in the sense that there are two metal foot pegs, but one of them is really short because that metal foot peg is only preventing the figure from spinning or rotating around. Otherwise, that tiny foot peg is not providing any kind of support to the figure. Yeah, only the longer one is. Now, moving on to the sculpting department of this figure, this is where I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised by this figure. Being a low budget figure, my expectations is not too high compared to a 20 or 30,000 yen scale figure. But this is pretty close to the level of details you see in a 15, 18,000 yen Japanese figure maybe. Yeah, a lower budget scale figure from Japanese brands, maybe under 20k. This is pretty close in that regard. The face of the figure, firstly, if I compare it to the official artwork or at least the official product photos provided by the company, it is pretty much identical. So that is all great news. And then there is a subjective opinion over here of mine where her hand is partially or rather fully covering her mouth, partially covering her face, right? So this is something that either you like or you don't. So with some 2D artwork by the original artist of this character, when they draw the character in 2D and then they have this very shy face expression with the hand covering her mouth like that, she looks amazing in 2D artwork. But sometimes when you convert the very same artwork into a 3D object, things can look off a little bit, especially if you're looking at the figure from various different angles. This is a very nice conversion from 2D artwork into 3D objects, so I'm very happy with how her face turns out over here. Virtually identical to the product photos. So her face over here is an easy 9 out of 10, despite. Moving on to the sculpt on the body, this is where I'm the happiest about this figure. So this is not your ordinary bunny girl figure. She has bunny ears, but you get Sukumizu, school swimsuit from the looks of it, and on top you get a partial sailor uniform, Seifuku. And finally below you get white stockings, thigh level stockings, which I love so much. Okay, the Seifuku over here is what that actually impressed me the most because, you know, the amount of wrinkles on her shirt over here. It is expensive scale figure level and they did not leave it plain white. They do a lot of heavy shading on it, a lot of different color and tones around the darker areas, and then the brighter areas on the chest, on the opai over here, it is brighter color. The folds down here, which is, it is in the shadow area in a sense. It is darker with some blue color tint to it. Very nice. Not the kind of paintwork I would see in low budget scale figures, or at least I wouldn't expect to. So this is excellent sculpting. The wrinkles on the shirt, the folds and so on. It is better than even some expensive scale figures. Yeah. But beyond the chest level, you move down, then everything else is pretty plain and par for the cost for a 7,000 yen figure or so. Yeah, this is a low budget scale figure. I forgot to check the price in MFC again because I got this from China. But in China, the official price is around 250 Chinese yuan or so. And Japanese price should be around 8,000 yen max. Yeah. Overall, I'm very happy with the sculpt that I can give her a score of an 8.5 out of 10. Yes, 8.5 is very high by my standards. No figures has ever scored 10 before when I review them, right? 8.5 is very high for a budget scale figure. Moving on to the paintwork, this is where you see some contrasting levels of detail. For example, her skin area, right? Her backside and everything. That is probably the main highlight of the figure, her backside, right? Shading, there is a bit of pink to it. It is pretty much the same as what I see in low budget scale figures by other brands. No complaints over there. And the stocking over here, you can see that being stretched thin impression over there where there is some skin color gradient on the white color stocking. Yeah, when you stretch cloth or fabric really thin, you see a bit of skin underneath. You get the effect over here as well. And on top of that, like I mentioned earlier, you get very heavy shading on her Seifuku. One more thing that really caught my attention are the white color stripes over here around her collar. They are not decals, they are painted. Because I saw some slight inconsistency, like for example, if your hands are kind of shaky, you drank too much coffee, then you see a bit of wobble, like something like that. That slight wobble I see on the upper shoulder over here tells me that this is hand painted, it is not a decal. And remarkably, for something hand painted, it is very consistent. The thickness of the white color stripes or lines, yeah, they are mostly the same throughout, very consistent. The only part which felt a little bit lacking is probably her hair, where probably due to yeah, the color of her hair very dark brown over here. There is not much room for shading or gradient. Or maybe they're just following the original artwork. It looks like that in the original 2D art. They just followed it. So if you look even closer, especially on her blue color Sukumizu over here and her hair, there is a bit of glitter effect, like pearlescent glitter effect. You need to get really close to see it and maybe shine a light source on it. You'll see it, right? If there is one complaint I have about the paint work, her sleeves on both hands, paint bleeding out, like some areas are too thick, the white line, and some areas too thin, and then you have the blue paint bleeding in. Lastly, the base of this figure, this is probably the only underwhelming part. Putting aside the stability and the hollowness, the lightness of the base I mentioned earlier, this gradient blue over here, which looks like a sky, a bit disappointing. I would like to see a slightly nicer base, but maybe I'm asking for too much in a 7,000 yen figure. So my conclusion is this. If you have pre-ordered this figure, you will be very pleased. If you did not pre-order one, just for that backside alone, which is sculpted beautifully, you may want to pick one up after release. Yeah, find her, if you find her for 7,000-8,000 yen, 9,000 yen, even buy it, right? Under 10,000 yen, it is a good buy. And you may not want to drag out that decision way too long because some Chinese figures, after release, their value actually go up. Not every single one of them, but some of them, it did happen, like some Animaster figures. So this is something you may want to pick up as soon as possible after release because their prices are really cheap enough that they will never bargain bin lower than the official MSRP. The only way the price will go is up. So pick one up as soon as possible. Until then, I hope that you found this review to be helpful and informative. If it is, please do give this video a like. Subscribe to this channel for more content like this every week. And until then, I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching and goodbye.